We are learning the end of Siman 307, which relates to the laws of Amirah LeNochri, various situations that Amirah LeNochri is allowed. Okay, we're going to start with the Mechaber, which is Shin Zayin Yud Tes. Schoira hanefsedes b'Shabbos al yedei geshomim or dover acher. If one has schoira merchandise that is perhaps getting ruined on Shabbos through a storm, rain, or anything else, or a rush of water is coming, overflowed river, who knows what, the Maya, masted on money, it's ruining his money. Or if a barrel of wine got cracked, and it's going to get ruined, you're allowed to call a non-Jew, even though he knows that the non-Jew is going to save the money. We're in Shin Zayin Yud Tes, 307:19 in the Mechaber. Even though he knows that the non-Jew is going to save the money, for example, even in a Torah way of a Torah violation, by the way, it's no problem. You don't tell him to do it. You just call him to the situation, and he figures it out. He's a smart guy. The Ramah adds in parentheses, as far as covering it, instead of calling the goy, covering it yourself to protect it from the rain or anything else like that, look in Shin Lamed Chazayim where it says that it's mutter. You are allowed to cover muktzah. You're not allowed to move muktzah, but you're allowed to cover muktzah for its own protection with a non-muktzah item.
Rabbi,
yes.
מה קורה עם oil? If you cover, you make an oil or it's okay?
I'm not talking about oil. I'm talking about taking a canvas and covering it. No oil.
It's not, it doesn't call oil?
No. Covering something with a canvas is not called oil. Oil is an oil. There's a lot of details about that. But a regular cover, like covering something with a canvas or with anything else, a plastic, that's not called oil. Similarly, and this is an even bigger chiddush, you're allowed to tell a goy, whoever wants to save will not miss out. The point of this is that even though when you say that, that is a pretty clear indication that you are going to pay him. That's what you mean, you're not going to miss out. You're going to gain, in fact. But that's the implication. That's not clear. But it still is a remez, so that's allowed. In this sense, it's similar to Edleka, which we're going to learn about, or maybe we won't. But it's mentioned in Siman Shin Lamedala. Yoram, put yourself on mute if you don't mind, please. And then if you have a question, you can unmute yourself. So, thank you. So the point is that when it comes to a Dleika, you're allowed to tell a goy, call a machabein mafsid, as we're going to see in Shin Lamed Aleph 334. So similarly, you're allowed to say it here. Both cases are cases of A, financial loss, and B, a financial loss in a situation where you're stuck. It's a sudden loss. If you don't do something about it now, it's too late later. So that's why there's a fear that you might end up doing it yourself, chas v'shalom. That's why the Chachamim gave certain allowances to allow you to tell a goy. The allowance over here is that you're calling him, A, which you could say that itself is like you're kind of hinting to him to do something. Second of all, you're telling him kol ha-machaba ein ha-mafsid or kol ha-matzal ein ha-mafsid, which is also like a hint. Nevertheless, they permitted it so that you shouldn't chas v'shalom come to do it yourself. Some say that it was only allowed by a dleika, by a fire. Specifically a fire, perhaps that's an even worse kind of damage, total loss, could spread to other places, who knows what. So some say that this heter of kol ha-machaba ein ha-mafsid is only allowed in that situation and not others. In practice, the Mishnah Berurah and the Alter Rebbe both say that we paskin, you're allowed to do this for other losses as well, not just for a fire. So that's the first halacha that we learn here, that you are allowed to hint somewhat to a goy to save your property, even if it's going to involve a melacha de'oraisa. Okay, chaf, moving right along. Yisrael shomer le'eni Yehudi, lasses le'melacha b'Shabbos. If a Jew told a non-Jew that he should do work for him on Shabbos, so it's only aser until after Shabbos, bichdei sheyaseh. It's not forbidden forever. Now the Mishnah Berurah brings here that there are two opinions about why it is aser. Some say it's aser because of a punishment. We don't want that the Jew should benefit from what the goy did for him when the goy was not allowed to, or I shouldn't say the goy was not allowed to. You were not allowed to have the goy do it for you, tell him to do it for you, or allow him to do it for you. So it's like a punishment. Some say it's more of a gzeira, it's more of a decree that you shouldn't come to do it, shouldn't come to tell him to do it yourself again. So those are the two opinions. In practice, there are practical differences between the two opinions. The Mishnah Berurah and the Alter Rebbe both bring this in Hilchos Yantav. According to the opinion that says that it's a punishment, so let's say he does work for you on the first day of Yantav. I'm talking about work that he's not allowed to do for you. He does it on the first day of Yantav. So it's only forbidden until after the first day of Yantav is over, plus bichdei sheyaseh. The second day of Yantav is not Yantav compared to the first day. Of course, it is Yantav on its own, because we're officially not sure which day is Yantav. We continue that suffix as they used to, but really, if the first day is Yantav, then the second day is not, and vice versa. So therefore, we don't want you to get benefit from it on Yom Tov, but after the first day of Yom Tov is over, plus bichdei sheyaseh, you should be allowed to do it if the reason is that you shouldn't benefit from an aveira. If, on the other hand, the reason is that you shouldn't come to tell him to do it for you, so then we don't want you to be allowed to benefit from it until you would be allowed to do it yourself. Meaning to say, if we allow you to benefit from it on the second day, after bichdei sheyaseh, next time, you might tell him to do it on the first day, knowing that you're going to be allowed to benefit from it after the first day is over. Whereas if you don't tell him, you're going to have to wait to do it yourself until after the second day is over. You're benefiting a whole day's worth.
Rabbi.
Yes?
It's the same about the goy when he cooked for the chole. If he's left, you don't eat it because next time he can cook that?
Yes, correct. But over there, we don't make you wait bichdei sheyaseh because there was no aveira done. He did it in a permissible way. You just can't eat it on Shabbos.
Okay.
So the same thing applies, by the way, if he did something for himself. If he cooked for himself, we said last week that you cannot eat from it at all, besides the issue of bishul akum. But there's a decree that you might ask him to do it for you. But because you didn't actually ask him to do it for you, so there's no punishment, there's no bichdei sheyaseh. It's only after Asr until after Shabbos, just to make sure that next time you don't ask him, and so on. Okay, so that's one practical difference between the two reasons, whether it's Asr on Yom Tov Sheni or not. Another practical difference that they both bring is, let's say the person who asked the goy to do it is not going to benefit. but somebody else wants to benefit. So as far as the fact that it's a benefit from an Avirah, it's still an Avirah. You shouldn't be allowed. Nobody should be allowed. No Jew should be allowed to benefit from an Avirah. But if it's from the fact that if you allow him to benefit, then maybe he'll ask again, well, that's only the person himself. But somebody else who didn't ask, well, why should we decree that he's going to ask just because somebody else asked? You know what I'm saying? You don't ask for other people. You don't do Avirahs for other people. So therefore, somebody else should be allowed to benefit. Now, in Hilchos Yontif, where he's talking about things that are trapped on Yontif or brought from Matzah Tchum, it could be it's muktzah anyway. So that's another issue. But aside from the muktzah issue, if you hold of the idea of making sure that you're not going to do it again, it would only apply to the person who asked for it and not somebody else. In practice, the Alter Rebbe says there to be strict like both opinions. That means it should be forbidden on the second day and should also be forbidden for other people. So that is the practical application of Seif Chaf. And in the Alter Rebbe, we're going to see what the halacha is if the goy did a malacha in a public way for a Jew. Perhaps that is more strict, and perhaps then it's forbidden not only b'chlei sheyasa, but forever. Okay, the Machaber continues. Chof Aleph. Also, loymer le'ena Yehudi b'Shabbos helach b'zeh uvasher lo yisur letzorkecha v'afilu ein mezanosav alav. You're not allowed to tell a Jew, here, take some meat and cook it for yourself. I see you're hungry. I have some meat in the freezer. Take it, cook it, enjoy. Even if he is not, you're not responsible to feed him. So he's doing it completely for himself. It has nothing to do with you. On the other hand, because it's your meat and he needs your permission to take your meat and he's getting your permission, so it's like he's doing it for you. Even though he's doing it for himself, but when he uses your stuff, it looks like he's doing it for you.
So it's not because of Livnei Iver, it's a completely separate issue.
No Livnei Iver whatsoever. The goy is allowed to cook on
Shabbos. Oh, sorry, I thought you said it for a Jew.
No. Talking about a goy. Also, you're not allowed to tell a goy on Shabbos, take this meat and cook it for yourself. Of course, you can't tell a Jew. You can't tell a Jew to do an Avirah chas v'shalom ever. We're talking about a goy. The goy is allowed to cook for himself. And as Alter Rebbe says, if the goy is taking his own meat out of the freezer, you could encourage him, yeah, cook it. That's great. Why don't you do this recipe, do that recipe? No problem. He's cooking his own stuff for himself. He doesn't need your permission at all. He's not doing it for you. You're allowed to tell him to do what he's allowed to do. It's only because it's your meat. That's why it looks like he is doing it for you. Says the Ramah, Aval, mutter limele lasa malacha la'atzmai. Okay, this is what I was saying before. That you're allowed to tell him to do malacha for himself with his own stuff. Okay, here we go with Chav Beis. Kol shvus derabanan, any issa derabanan, mutter ben hashmashas letzorech mitzvah. You're allowed to do it ben hashmashas for the needs of a mitzvah. Okay, going for example, you're allowed to ask a goy to light a candle for you in ben hashmashas. The truth is, we already learned this in 261, and that's where we went into all the details. The Machaber is repeating it here just because there's a few exceptions being given. He adds another exception. Another example. One second. Another example is if you need to take off meiser from fruits or vegetables that would not tithe before Shabbos. Yes.
The candle is considered like the switch for the light as well?
Yeah. Same thing. You can ask a guy to turn a light on if you need it for Shabbos, and it's Bein Hashmashos.
Bein Hashmashot.
The beginning of Shabbos, correct.
Okay. Bein Hashmashot, you don't allow to have 15 minutes after light candle?
About 15 minutes. I mean, no, even after sunset. After candle lighting time is when the sun goes down. After the sun goes down, another 20 minutes or half hour, depending on where you are and what day and so on, you still have Bein Hashmashot. And that a Jew cannot do anything under any circumstance. I mean, a Jew cannot do a Torah level prohibition under any circumstance. Rabbinic level, some are allowed, like he says here. But you can ask a goy to do even a Torah level prohibition if you need it. in that time.
But Rabbi, let's say I put something to cook, and I told the guy Ben Hashmachos to turn off the cook. It's okay?
To turn it off?
Yes.
Why do you need it? Why don't you just take it off the fire?
I don't need it. I'm just asking if it's okay.
No, that's not okay, because that's not a tzarech. That's no need. Just take it off the fire. We're talking about you need it. You need it for Shabbos, or you need it for a mitzvah.
Yeah. I need the food for the Shabbat, for a Friday evening.
So what do you mean take it? What's your question?
The fire, I cooked that, but he need another half an hour. So it's still cooking. Now it's ready. And if Ben Hashmashot, I can tell the guy turn the stove.
I think the point he's making is that the turning off is not for the purpose of the food. That's for the purpose of saving money or your own comfort.
Exactly. Turning it off doesn't help you eat. Turning it off saves you on the electricity bill.
But you could ask a guy to turn the fire down so that it doesn't burn for Shabbos. If that's going to be, if it's not,
but not burned, you could tell him in Ben Hashmashas, turn it down. Or for that matter, in Ben Hashmashas or on Shabbos itself, you could tell him you don't need it anymore. And if he understands that and he turns it off, that's okay, because you're not benefiting bodily from that. You're not telling him directly. But you cannot tell him specifically to turn it off even Ben Hashmashas, because that's just a small financial loss. For a large financial loss, by the way, we said you're allowed to tell him Ben Hashmashas too. But a small financial loss, no.
So Rabbi, for Shabbat, about 3 months ago, I did chamin, and before I went to synagogue, I put it the chamin in a high position, and everything started to get boiling and all that.
Yeah.
So I went to see. I couldn't tell the guy to put it down.
To put it down, down and not off, yes. Because that's going to save it and keep you with hot food for Shabbat.
Because when I come from the synagogue, the pot it was cracked to off, and all the chamin it was with a plastic like a rock. It's no good.
Yeah, you could have told the guy to turn it down. Next time.
Oh, Bezat Hashem. To turn it off as well?
To turn off, no. Just take it off. Just take it out.
When I take it off, I can tell you after to turn it off.
No, you could hint to him to turn it off. You could say, "I don't need it on."
I don't need it. Oh,
I don't need it. But you can't tell him. You can't tell him specifically.
Okay.
Okay. Says the Mechaber further. Ramah actually. Also, anything you can't tell a non-Jew to do on Shabbos, you also cannot hint to him to do. You can hint to him to do a malacha after Shabbos. Because if you're hinting to him to do on Shabbos, even though there's no speech, but he still understands that you want him to do it, he's still doing it for you. But if you hint to him to do, and to tell him specifically on Shabbos to do it after Shabbos, you can't, because you're talking on Shabbos about forbidden work. But to hint to him on Shabbos to do it after Shabbos, no problem. You're not saying anything. And when he's going to do it, it's already going to be after Shabbos. So, Einam Yehudim. Here's another halacha. We didn't learn this yet. Einam Yehudim amaviyim tvua b'Shabbos Yisrael shechayav lehem. Non-Jews are bringing grain to Jews that they owe. The Jew gives him the key to his storage house. The non-Jew puts it in there, and they count and they measure as they're putting it in. Some allow it. Why? Even though they're repaying the Jew, but until after Shabbos, it's considered their own work. The Jew doesn't accept it yet as payment for the loan or for whatever he's owed until after he measures it and he makes the cheshbon, which he's not going to do until after Shabbos. So what they're doing now to empty it out and measure it is all for themselves, because they don't have anywhere to keep it. They want to take it off the wagons and let their animals, get off already. So they're doing it for themselves. After Shabbos, that's when you'll measure it and you'll accept it. So too, non-Jews who are making cheese on Shabbos, The Jew is the mashgiach. He has to be there even on Shabbos. It's a 24/7 production line, or maybe not 24/7, maybe 12/7, or whatever it is. And he wants to be Chalav Yisrael. He wants to buy it, or the Jews want to buy it. So he wants to sit there on Shabbos. It's no problem. The non-Jew is working for himself. He is making cheese. He wants the cheese to be kosher. He wants to sell it to the Jews. But at this moment, it still belongs to him. Even if the Jew stands together with the Eder, he goes around together with the flock a month or two. Like mashgichim, there are mashgichim today that they work in dairy plants, dairy factories, and they have to work on Shabbos too. They don't do any work, obviously, but they have to supervise it on Shabbos too.
Interestingly, we didn't do that. I was in a 24/7 dairy plant doing exactly that, adding the vegetarian rennet. Shabbos, we used to go to Auckland, and they used to be allowed to put the vegetarian rennet in because it was locked and they couldn't get it from anywhere else. But that production didn't go to kosher.
Right. Interesting. They just allowed it for the purpose of not koshering it afterwards, I presume.
That's correct.
Interesting.
You and Rabbi Gutnick.
Right. Interesting. Even though their intention is to sell it to the Jews, right now it doesn't belong to the Jews, and therefore they're working for themselves, and it's permissible. All right, I'm just going to stop the recording, and we'll start a new recording for the Alter Rebbe. Give me one moment, please. All right, here we go in the Alter Rebbe. 307. We're doing the Alter Rebbe 307, 33. Lamed Gimel. Here we go. Im bo mayim shoitvim. If water is coming and flooding his property, or barrels of wine are being, as he translated, on the process of being ruined, and they're being wasted, you're allowed to call a non-Jew there, even though you know that the non-Jew is going to fix it himself, as I have said, the loss with a complete Torah level work, it's allowed. Rak, you have to be careful not to tell him any hint of a remez, any hint to fix it. He has to figure it out on his own. But you're allowed to tell him, whoever saves this will not miss out on a reward for his efforts.
Do we have to use that negative?
Yes. You're not allowed to say whoever does this is going to be paid, because that is too clear of a hint. It has to be indirect. And even this is only allowed because of the financial loss. If it wouldn't be a financial loss, if it would be something else, you wouldn't be allowed to give this hint, even if you're not going to benefit bodily. We said before that according to the Alter Rebbe, if you make a hint and there's not going to be any bodily benefit, you're allowed, you don't have to stop him from doing it. But you can't use a hint like this, which is considered too direct. You could just say, it's very light in here. I can't sleep. I'm not allowed to turn the lights off. I'm not allowed to ask anybody else to turn the lights off. it's my Sabbath. I would really like to sleep. Whatever, continue in that vein for as long as you want. But you can't say whoever turns it off is not going to lose out on a financial payment, because that is considered like a too direct of a hint. That's the whole point of what he's saying here.
Are we going to get to the smart home devices like Google and Alexa?
What?
Are we going to discuss Google and Home and Amazon Alexa at any point in this?
I wasn't planning on it.
Okay. I think it would be a very interesting and useful and practical thing.
You're activating them yourself. If you're talking to those devices, you're activating them yourself. What's the question about that?
Well, I was reading something on it, and it was about, do you have to, firstly, are you allowed to use them? Secondly, are you allowed to speak if you know that they're around? And thirdly, do you have to actively turn them off before Shabbos?
Right. So the first one is clear that you're not allowed to do.
Yep.
You're not allowed to actively talk to it and tell it what to do, because you're purposefully activating those electrical signals and whatever. When it's listening in the background to hear if you're saying its name or whatever it is, I don't know that that's forbidden. I didn't look into it at all, but because there's no direct and intended electrical, happening, even though it's listening, so there must be something going on internally, but there's nothing visible, there's nothing you benefit from, it's not your intention.
So what I saw is that you benefit from it it will listen and filter out what you say, and you want it to filter out what you say, and that is a problem, and that is why you should turn it off.
Why do you want to filter out what you say? What does that mean?
So it listens to everything, including the background music, etc. In order to wait for what you're going to say, it has to listen to everything you say and filter out everything that is not, hey, Google.
Yeah, but you're not planning to talk to it on Shabbos. So
yeah. And it's saying that it says, what I read is that the filtering is nichale, because you want it to filter. This is the argument for why it should be turned off.
I'm not sure.
I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying that's what I read. And I'm sure there's been a lot of debate about it.
I totally haven't looked into it. But when you say you want it to filter out, it sounds like because you want to use it sometimes and not other times. So you want it to filter out when you don't use it. But here you don't want to use it at all. So you couldn't care less about it filtering. You would rather it didn't filter, it didn't work, it didn't anything. I don't know. I'm not sure. Again, I'm not saying it's allowed. Certainly, if there's any question, it's better to turn it off. What do you gain from it being on? You know what I'm saying? You can't talk to it anyway. So the benefit of leaving it on, but I'm not sure that it's forbidden. Let's put it this way: if you left it on by mistake, I'm not sure that it's forbidden to talk for that Shabbos. I would guess that there's room to be lenient, but again, I haven't looked into it.
I just happened to buy a few of them on Black Friday, so for me, it's now very relevant.
I hear you. Okay, I don't know. I didn't buy any, but my daughter does have one, and I don't know if she turns it off for Shabbos or not. I've never asked her, but that's a good point. Okay, so we continue and we say, so the point is, just like they permitted by a fire to say in front of Goyim, whoever extinguishes does not lose out, so they also permitted that with all financial losses. The point is that the way I understand the Alter Rebbe, even though I did see that some disagree, the way I understand the Alter Rebbe is that the heter is this hint. The fact that you're saying, that is the heter. In other words, if you would be simply calling the Jew, the Gentile, and he figures out on his own that he needs to, that it would be a good thing to extinguish it or to save your stuff, I don't think you need a heter for that. Because if my understanding of the Alter Rebbe is correct, when it comes to things that people don't need permission for, even though they belong to you, you don't have to stop people from doing it, like turning off a light, putting out a fire, saving things. Nobody needs permission. That's something that any good neighbor would do. So therefore, I don't think you need the financial loss to allow for that. Even though he's doing it with your property, because you didn't tell him to, he's not considered your shliach. On the other hand, and there is no direct bodily benefit. You're just having stuff saved. When it comes to the fact that you are specifically saying whoever does this is not losing out, that's already a hint that is borderline. And that is only allowed because of the fact that there's a financial loss. Now, I did see that some Achrayim learned differently. If Nissim Karelitz brought in the Dirshu says, no, the very fact that you're calling him to your house, that's already a forbidden hint. And that's also only allowed for the fact that there's a financial loss. If it wouldn't be a financial loss, he would say you cannot call a goy to your property to figure out what to do, even without any other hint, because that itself is a hint. Calling him to a situation that calls for assistance and expecting him to understand that assistance, that itself is a forbidden hint, which is only allowed, according to him, with a financial loss situation. Another thing that he says, just give me a moment, is based on this, he says you're not allowed to tell a goy to come into the room and see that the light is on and say, it's dark, I can't sleep, it's light, I can't sleep in here, and so on. If he happens to be there, you can say it, but you can't call him. So that's the opinion of Rav Moshe Feinstein, Rav Yashiv, and so on. Others are lenient. Rav Vosner is lenient and says you're allowed to call him and you're allowed to say I can't sleep and so on. You just can't tell him whoever turns it off is not going to lose out. That's only for financial loss. And Rav Shlomo Zalman is not sure about this halacha. So that's a bit of a question. Continuing in Lamed Gimel. Some say that they only permitted this statement of kol machaba ein mafsid or kol matzal ein mafsid or whatever, that whoever does this is not going to lose out only by a fire, but not by other financial losses. Anybody who is lenient, like the first opinion, in any case of a great financial loss, did not miss out. That's okay. Because of the machlokes, and it's only a derabanan after all, so you could be mekel and do this by any great financial loss. Lamed Daled, in the Alter Rebbe 34, Yisrael Shomer LeNochri, Lasis LeMelacha b'Shabbos. A Jew who told a non-Jew to do melacha for him on Shabbos. That Jew, even though he did the wrong thing, is allowed to benefit after Shabbos when he waits the time of B'chtei Sheyasa, the time that it takes to do that thing. Only as long as it's not a public matter. Like we're going to see there. When a Jew does it on his own for a non-Jew. Some disagree. Meaning to say, we're going to see over there that if he did something publicly for a Jew, so then some say it's forbidden for the Jew to benefit from it forever. Like we had in the case of the house that was built for a Jew by a schir yom, not just a maris ayin situation, but an actual forbidden schir yom situation. Some say, or not some say, the halacha says, that no Jew is ever allowed to benefit from it, allowed to live there, because it's a chilul Hashem that a public act of Shabbos desecration took place. So b'chtei sheyasa is not enough. We don't say, well, wait an extra, it took 7 weeks, he worked on Shabbos, wait an extra 7 days. No, never, you can never benefit. Similarly, it says over there, if a non-Jew dug a grave for a Jew in a public way, on Shabbos, no Jew can ever be buried there because it's a disgrace that a public act of Shabbos desecration took place. On the other hand, he also does say there that some say that it's only about a grave, because it's not nice that a person is buried in a thing that a public Shabbos desecration was done with, but with other matters, not a grave, it's not forbidden. And basically, it says over there, there's room for leniency in a case of need. So that is that halacha. We're going to learn more about it tomorrow, Mitzvah Hashem, when we get to 325. Says Lamed Hey 35, Loy Asru, Amir LeNochri, Elalas B'Shvil Yisrael. They only forbade Amir LeNochri if it's being done for the sake of a Jew. You're allowed to tell him to do work for himself. For another guy. Here's a chiddush, my friends. Listen carefully. Even if the Jew will benefit from it. But as long as the guy is doing it for himself with his own stuff, they tell the guy, put out your fire. Obviously, it's in his own property. The kavanasa and your intention is that the fire should not move on to the Jewish property. That's allowed. The same thing applies in the similar situations. You're going to benefit. But the fact is, he's doing it for himself with his own stuff. It's no problem. Now, let's say he uses your stuff, but he's doing it for himself. So then you don't have to stop him. You're not allowed to tell him, as Alter is going to say in a moment, but you don't have to stop him. So a maid who works in your house decides to make a wash load with your washing machine, with her own wash load. Now, there is an issue of noise, maybe people will hear, and so on and so forth. But as far as the very malacha itself, it's permissible. Even though they're using your stuff, but you didn't tell her to, and she's doing it for herself, so you don't have to stop her. When do we say this? Only if he does it on his own. You cannot tell him, take these kelim, or take this item and do malacha with it on Shabbos. Even if you're giving it to them completely, so it's not just that you're telling him to use your item. You're saying it's going to be yours from now on. I'm never taking it back. Take this meat and cook it for yourself on Shabbos. Obviously, he's giving it to the Gentile to keep forever. It's still forbidden because the fact is that it used to belong to the Jew. And he's giving it to him on Shabbos and telling him to do malacha with it. Even if you're not responsible to feed him. You gain nothing from it. You lose out on a good piece of steak. Nevertheless, since you're telling him to do malacha with your stuff, he looks like your agent. Even though he's intending for his own benefit, and he does benefit, nevertheless, when he uses your stuff and you told him to, that appears like a shlichus situation. Okay, here goes Lamed Vav. Nochri shehevi chafetzim shehem muktzim lebeis Yisrael afkida metzloi. A goy who brought items that are muktzim to a Jewish house to leave them there. The goy could bring them to a place. The Jew can even show him that place, to a private area, a secure area, to put it there. There's no issur of muktzah by telling the goy to carry it there, because it's for the sake of the goy. It's the goy stuff. Maybe you're going to buy it after Shabbos, or maybe you're just watching it for him. But for now, it's his stuff. Like we said before, you're allowed to tell a goy to do his own work. But what if he's bringing you your stuff? He was guarding your stuff. Now he has to leave town, and he's bringing your stuff back. You cannot tell him because it's muktzah and it's yours, and he's doing work with your stuff, even though you do rabbinic work, muktzah rabbanon, nevertheless, you can't tell him. Elohim came, unless they're still in his hands before he puts them down. Why? When the guy has it in his hands, you're allowed to tell him to carry it to any place that you wants. Why? Very simple. Even a Jew who's not allowed to move muktzah, if it's already in your hands, you're allowed to keep it in your hands and carry it to wherever you want, with an Erev, obviously, or in your house, like we will explain in Siman Shinches and Yirtzeh Hashem in a good time. So the point is, Rafal, you still there? You're very quiet. The point is, oh, he's gone. Okay. So, even though he's going to be moving muktzah, but because the Jew is allowed to continue carrying muktzah, so the guy is allowed to continue carrying muktzah for him as well if it's already in his hands. Okay. Let's stop this recording. And start a new one in a moment. This was 34. 33 to 36. Okay, here goes 37, my friends. Nochrim amaviyim agolos meleos tvua b'Shabbos. Goyim who are bringing wagon loads full of grain on Shabbos. This was the Ramah. Shem chayavim lei, they owe it to him. The Jew gives them the key to his storage house. And they bring it to the storage house, and they measure it, and they count it out in front of the Jew. The Jew watches. Ein iser b'davar. There is no iser. Why? They are doing their own work. They want to pay him back. They're doing it for their own sake. It's going to belong to the Jew. Nevertheless, the transfer of possession of that grain does not happen until after Shabbos, when he goes over the cheshbon with them and accepts it. Until that time, it's like they are keeping it for safekeeping in his place. And they are measuring and weighing their own pikadon, their own article for safekeeping. They want to measure it. They want to weigh it to make sure that the Jew is not going to say, no, you gave me too little or whatever. So it's for their own sake. If they brought grain that belongs to a Jew, and they're just, he already purchased it, and they're just delivering it, he's not allowed to tell him, empty it from the wagons into my storage house. Even without weighing or measuring it. Now we know weighing and measuring is forbidden because it might lead to writing. It's included in business transactions and so on. Nevertheless, even if you just tell him to transfer it with no weighing, no measuring, no carrying, because it's already in the yard, so and there's walls or whatever. Nevertheless, a Jew is not allowed to empty it where it says that you're not allowed to empty a wagon into a storage house for reasons of tircha, of bother. You shouldn't be bothered on Shabbos doing such things. Anything is forbidden for a Jew to do on Shabbos, even with Rabbanan, Also, LeNochri lasted b'shvili, and not allowed to go do for you. Now, this is a chiddush, by the way, because you could say Mela when he's doing a malacha derabanan, he's writing in a rabbinic way. He's cooking in a rabbinic way. Who knows what? Okay, so that's a real malacha, and I can't do it myself. I can't have a goy do it. But when there is no malacha per se, it's just a question of tircha. So here, I'm not doing any tircha. The goy is doing the tircha. So you might think, big deal. No, the Alter Rebbe says, even so, you cannot have a goy do it for you. The fact is, it's forbidden to Rabbanan for whatever reason, and having a goy do it is like you're doing it in a Rabbanan way, right? Because he's like your shaliach, and therefore it's not allowed. Even if they on their own come to empty it into your otzer, you have to stop them. Because it belongs to you. If you see it and are silent, it's considered that they're doing it for themselves, for you. Like it says on Beis. Although he does point out at 147 that the Alter Rebbe, the Madur Basra, does change his mind and does say that if you don't tell him and he uses your equipment, but there's no bodily benefit, then you don't have to stop him. So that would seem to be the case over here, where they're simply doing the delivery. You're not saying anything, and there's no bodily benefit at the moment. I mean, eventually you'll benefit from it, you'll profit from it or whatever, but not now. On the other hand, it is, actually, no, I was going to say it's Maras Ayin, because they're doing it on your property, but Maras Ayin for what? I mean, they're not really doing a malacha. They're just doing tircha. I don't know if we say Maras Ayin about tircha. I'm not sure. Okay, Lamed Ches, with no further ado. Nochrim ha'osim gvinas b'Shabbos mechalav shelehem. Goyim that are making cheese on Shabbos from their own milk. Jews are watching both the milking and the cheese making process in order for it to be permissible for Jews to eat from it. Now, this is something, by the way, that even Reb Moshe agrees with, that it is necessary. Reb Moshe is lenient about watching the milking. He says you can rely on the government, but not about cheese making. Reb Moshe agrees that cheese making, you have to actually have a Jew watching the actual cheese making. Now, what's cheese and what's not cheese when it comes to soft cheese, lebanon, yogurt, and so on? These are questions that have to be addressed. But certainly, if it's considered cheese, it is something that a Jew must at least supervise. So, now, if the Jew watches it on Shabbos, he or any other Jew can buy it after Shabbos for eating. Even if the Jew stands in the herd for a month or two, and let's say, for example, the Goy plans to sell this entire run to a Jewish company, whether it's to this Jew or any other Jew, and not to any Goyim. Nevertheless, it's allowed. Because the Goy is doing it for himself. He wants the profit of this run, and it belongs to him too. There's nothing prohibited about a Jew standing and watching him work. The Goy is doing his own work. You're allowed to watch a Goy work on Shabbos. You're passing a construction site. It's interesting to see all those machines working and the people and the cranes and whatnot. Big deal. I'm just watching. Same thing here. He's doing his own work. He's going to sell it to me later. Okay, that's no problem. The Jewish name is not called yet on the cheese, meaning to say it has not been transferred yet in its ownership. Until he buys it after Shabbos. And therefore, you're allowed to tell him to do it on Shabbos. If he asks you, do you mind if I do this? Yeah, no problem. You're allowed to tell a Goy to do his own work. Even if this will lead to a Jew profiting, as we said before. You're allowed to tell him to put out the fire in his own property to save your property. Same thing here. You're allowed to tell him to make cheese from his own milk that he milked from his own cows, even though you will benefit in the long run from being able to buy that milk and that cheese. That is the chiddush. All right, let me just go through my notes that I sent earlier and see if there's anything to add. So number one, even in the case of a fine-grade financial loss, one may not hint in a direct way. If you save, you won't lose, if a Torah violation is involved. Okay, so this is based on what we've been saying in the past. For a Torah violation, you are not allowed to have a go do work for you. In the case of a mitzvah, some allow it. But for financial loss, no, nobody allows it, even a great financial loss. So the whole heter is only over here because it is not a direct, you're not telling him directly, nor are you hinting directly, right? You're not saying he's gonna win. You're not saying he's going to be paid. You're just saying he's not going to lose. So calling a non-Jew to the place of the loss of any hint whatsoever is allowed. I wrote according to all opinions, but I should have said according to the Alter Rebbe, whereas in 3, it says some are strict and do not allow one to call a goy to the place of malacha as needed, even without a hint, unless the financial loss. That's Rav Moshe, I quoted him earlier. Some allow it and some aren't sure. Rav Wozner and Shlomo Zalman. 2 reasons for B'chtei Sheyaseh. This is what I mentioned, that the Alter discusses in 5:15, not to benefit from the Avera and to make sure one does not ask a goy to do work for him in the future. One nafkamina on the second day of Yom Tov, another nafkamina, like we said before, is if another Jew who did not ask wants to benefit from it. Okay, number 5, one may also not give a keli to a goy before Shabbos and tell him to use it for his own work. Okay, just like we said that you cannot give a keli to a goy on Shabbos and say, do work with it on Shabbos, like telling him to make his own steak on Shabbos. You can't give him something before Shabbos and tell him to do it on Shabbos. You can't tell the maid before Shabbos, oh, you know what? On Shabbos, feel free to make your own wash loads. Can't do that because it's your washing machine. If she does it on her own, b'vakasha, but you can't tell her. You don't have to stop her. If she says, can I do it? You can say, so whatever you want. Say whatever you want, but don't say you can do it. You shouldn't say those words, you are allowed to do it. I give you permission. You shouldn't give permission, but you can say whatever, either way, something like that, something non-committal. And then you don't have to stop her. Okay, here's a big chiddush that I saw on the Deer Shoe, my friends, and it affects many Jews around the world, and it's not an easy one, but I'm going to repeat it. Rav Karelitz writes that one should not cause a goy to stop his car for him to cross the street. So in places like California, where they have a lot of respect for pedestrians, even if you don't set foot in the crosswalk, even if you just stand in front of the crosswalk, the cars will stop, even from a block away. They see you there, they stop. In New York, you can forget about it. In England, forget about it. With all due respect to the English, but when I was there, they don't stop for you in the crosswalk. That's not
the problem. Is that you're in the Jewish areas where there are Jewish drivers. Stamford Hill, yeah, you're absolutely right.
There weren't Jewish drivers. I mean, I saw who the drivers were. They were but nobody stopped. And other areas stop for you? I cannot think of any instance where a car has gone, if you stop and look as if you're going to cross, I can't recall an incident where they haven't, except Stamford Hill and Golders Green have a reputation for terrible, terrible, terrible driving. All right, I didn't notice the drivers being Jewish. I'll have to check again next time. Okay, well, in Florida, they don't stop for you either, so that's life. But
they put it's different. In New York, they don't have pedestrian crossings the same way as much, do they? They have lines across the road wherever you're allowed to cross, but sometimes you have to wait for a light.
Right, but if there is no light in California, the law is, and people actually follow the law, that when there's a pedestrian, you must stop, even if there's no light. But in Florida, they have those same crosswalks, and I don't know what the purpose of them is because nobody stops. So I don't know. Maybe it's the law, nobody listens. Maybe it's not the law. I don't know. But in any case, so Karelitz says that you are not allowed to walk into that crosswalk if you know it's going to make them stop, or even stand there. You have to stand back, according to him, and only cross when nobody's coming, because otherwise they're crossing for you. They're stopping for you. Honestly, this is a chiddush, because until I read that, my understanding was they don't have to stop. They're crossing for themselves, not to break the law, in case a police happens to see them and give them a ticket. But he obviously holds, well, that's secondary. The main thing is they see you and they stop for you. So that's like a hint. Okay, that's his chiddush. I'm not sure if everybody agrees.
I heard that you shouldn't stop a Jewish person. So if you see Jewish...
Absolutely. In Israel, in Tel Aviv, or whatever it is, definitely. But in Chutz La'aretz, I don't know. I hope there are other opinions, but I'm not sure.
Does the person who came up with this chiddush live in Israel?
He does.
Okay.
No, but I don't think he was talking about Jews.
No, I know, but
what is the context of it was Amirah LeNochri. No.
Is throwing stones at a car considered making it stop or go faster?
Yeah. That's too big of a topic to cover. I'm actually not finding that piece at this moment. I'm not finding that piece at this moment. Okay, number 7, the Jew may supervise the cheese making even if the guy plans on giving the cheese to the Jew for his debt. So in other words, not only is he going to sell it, he already owes him money. And this is going to pay back the debt. Nevertheless, until the transfer happens, it belongs to the guy. And number 8, Rabbi Moshe writes, this is also in the Dirshu, that benefiting from the cold air of an air conditioner is considered bodily pleasure. Meaning to say, there are some situations where you can have a guy do it for you. If it's uncomfortable, shvus to shvus. If it's a major heat wave and maybe people can get heat stroke, then even if it's a Torah level, kind of work is something else. But if it's not a big deal, if it's just a degree or two, so you don't have those heterim, Reb Moshe would hold you cannot have him do it even if you're not.
What?
Shh, put yourself on mute, please, Yoram. Even if you're not telling him, even with a hint, because getting benefit from that air conditioner is like a light, where you get benefit from the light. When it comes to do it, even if you tell him, even if you don't tell him sorry, you have to stop him, because when he does something for you to get benefit from in your body, that's considered that he's doing it for you. The same thing applies to an air conditioner according to Moshe. Of course, like we said before, there might be heterim, shvus to shvus, great need or whatever. But if you don't have those heterim, Moshe holds you're not even allowed to tell him in a way of a hint. Rather, you just have to sit it out. Okay, my friends. It's been a pleasure. We're going to stop here and continue Mitzvah Shem tomorrow, hopefully closer to 2 o'clock.